Untitled Louisiana. I'm Chef John Folse, welcoming you to this great state of ours. These beautiful plantation homes reflect the fascinating history of our culture and cuisine, and I'd like to share this story with you. Why not join me and some of my friends as we visit the plantation homes of our state and cook up another great Taste of Louisiana.
Funding for this program was provided in part by Bruce Foods Corporation, makers of Louisiana Gold and other distinctive Louisiana-style food products.
Today it's not easy to find many of our Louisiana plantation homes that have remained in the same family ever since they were built back in the 1800s. But when you do, boy, what a wealth of family history, memorabilia, and artifacts that you're sure to discover with that find. Well, today I've located such a home, and I'm going to tell you it's all right here, untouched after 100 years, just as I suspected. Welcome to the greatest example of Victorian architecture in the state of Louisiana, the Shaffer family home, Ardoyne Plantation. Ardoyne is a Scottish word meaning little knoll or hill. This Victorian-style structure was designed in 1897 for John Shaffer and his new wife, Julie Cutcliffe. On the left side of the home are two large porches used as an extension of the living area. Here we are looking at two very rare oil lamps. These lamps are museum quality and were used to light the mule barns on those dark bayou nights. This mosquito porch is screened in and used for comfort in the summer. Ardoyne was and still is a working sugar plantation. This hogshead barrel was used to measure sugar, and here we see that in 1843, Shaffer produced 360 hogsheads of sugar. The woodwork in the home is made of cypress harvested from the property and is second to none. There are many unique designs displayed throughout the house. At the end of this 60-foot central hallway is a fabulous staircase covered with the original carpeting of the home and accented by a very early brass lamp. This lamp has even been electrified. It's just gorgeous. Look how beautiful that is. The mantel in the dining room across the hall is also carved cypress, and it's the perfect spot for this collection of spoiled china that's complete with this little fish design. It's a wonderful place to have china. Throughout the house, we see gorgeous examples of artwork, pottery, and antique furniture that has been handed down from generation to generation in the Shaffer family. Across the main hallway is the library and office of the plantation, but located here in an old oak display case is the finest collection of carved Louisiana cypress dolls you'll ever lay eyes on. They all belong to the present owner, Margaret Shaffer. In the master bedroom are two huge half-tista beds and even a little day bed that was used by the lady of the house to sneak and take a quick afternoon nap. Here Margaret and I are looking at two very rare pieces in the home. First, an early brass coffee pot made in France, but purchased by the family on a trip to Brazil. This pot is one of the oldest percolators in all of Louisiana. I've never seen another one like it. Because the house has been owned by the Shaffers from its beginning, many original records are found throughout the house. Here is an 1898 grocery bill showing all of the purchases for the whole year from January to December. And guess what? The total price? $3,300. In the dining room across the hall is a glass breakfront containing all of the original china of the family, including this Louisiana Irish plate painted by Margaret herself. It's just a gorgeous collection in that china cabinet, and it just goes to show you how much can be saved in a plantation home when that house has remained in the same family since its beginning. It really does. It's amazing to see the original china, the silver, and of course the records dating back all the way to the 1700s in Ardoyne Plantation. This beautiful home is located right outside of Thibodaux, Louisiana, on the way to Houma. So if you ever have an opportunity to drive in Bayou Country, make sure you pass in front of this gorgeous Victorian mansion. It would be a wonderful experience. My guest in the kitchen today is also very special. In fact, Alvin Batiste, many of you may know as the director of the Jazz Institute at Southern University. But Alvin Batiste is also one of the greatest clarinet players and a recording artist for CBS Records. He's going to come into the kitchen, and we're going to talk about the African-American influence from the plantations on American music today. So you won't want to miss this. It's going to be really great. You saw that old grocery list that Margaret and I was kind of looking over in the hallway there. If you can imagine seeing all of the groceries purchased in that house in the 1800s, and seeing some of the ingredients, well, that made it real easy for me to decide what I was going to cook in the kitchen today. One of the ingredients I kept seeing coming up over and over again was country ham. I actually brought in to Houma, Louisiana, because the hams here in our part of the country are actually the cured and smoked ham, because we can't dry cure ham in Louisiana because of the high humidity. So we always, if we're going to have the dried cured process where you bury the ham in salt, it's got to come from the Virginia area, and Ardoyne brought in a lot of these Virginia hams. But let's take a look at this cured smoked ham that I have in this board. This thing must be about 15 pounds. It's beautiful. And as with this ham and the sugar cured and the cured ham, you would always want to score it right before cooking. And I think the biggest problem with the dried cured ham is that you actually have to soak that ham for about 3 days to soften up the rind, whereas the cured ham like this one and then smoked is normally really nice and soft as it comes out of the smokehouse, so it makes it a little bit easier to work with. Of course, another big problem with hams like this is, what do you cook them in? They're so big, so you have to make sure you have a really good roasting pan and a big oven. This ham would probably serve about 25 people, and the ham bone is as good as the ham itself, especially here in Louisiana, where we like red beans and rice and white beans and rice cooked with a really nice big ham bone. This is where it would come from. So once the ham is scored like this, of course you would want to garnish it or put some other flavorings in. I'm going to use some of these nice kumquats. You could use orange slices, lemons, and I always put them in some type of a pattern. I'll just put a couple of them on here. I'm going to secure them with toothpicks. You want to just kind of follow the lines, keep them all kind of going in the same direction, and you're going to see that the pattern will quickly start to show on the ham. And as the ham cooks, naturally all of the great sugar and citrus flavor of these little kumquats will start to coat this ham and give it a really nice flavor. I'll just put one more on here. I think you have the general idea. You could even put some mint leaves or some basil leaves, all other kind of nice green sassafras leaves here in Louisiana, which would just continue to help flavor the outside of this ham. Now, I'm going to coat it. Let's assume that this is in a big baking pan. Of course, I don't have that many of them, but I'll just show you exactly how I would do it. I'd put a little cane syrup on top of it if this was in that big roaster. And that'll, of course, put the sugar on top of the ham. And then a couple bottles of beer. You could use stock or you could use just water, but just put a little bit beer in the bottom of your roaster. And the important thing now is that you would cover it very tightly with a lid or with aluminum foil and put this ham in a 500-degree oven, tightly covered for an hour. That beer and sugar will start to steam and render the juices in the ham, whether it's country or cured, it doesn't matter, and lower the heat to 275, continue to cook it for about 2.5 hours, and it'll tenderize and put the sugar down into the ham, and then you could continue on. So I want to show you exactly how we did that. I have one already out of the oven, and let me get this because it's nice and steamy here. Oh boy, talk about nice and heavy too. Look at this ham. You just take a good look at that scored ham. You can see how the scores of the ham will open up quickly, and you can see how the sugar all kind of cooks down into the ham. And what I have here after, and I've drained it out, this is the red-eye gravy from a country ham that comes out of the bottom of the pan once you drain it all out. It's really, really a nice flavor, and I want to use it in my glaze. So again, I would put more of these nice kumquats, and I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's all done. Let's just put a couple here again so you can see how we did it, and then I'll make the glaze just right on top so you can get an idea of how that glaze goes onto the ham. This will have to be baked again just for a couple of minutes. In the little bowl I have here, you can see that I have some brown sugar. Now, this brown sugar is just, you know, you find it, here in Louisiana, we can even get some of the raw brown sugar, but just use the one that you get in the boxes in the store. Here I have some Creole mustard. Use yellow mustard if you'd like. Put a couple spoons full of that in there. Some thyme, naturally, some basil, and then just a little bit of this red eye gravy that has a touch of the beer, and of course, remember, the cane syrup, and I'm going to even put a little bit more sugar cane syrup in it. After all, we're making a sweet glaze, and I'm going to heat it up with a little bit Louisiana pepper sauce, a couple little drops in there, and then just whip all of this together like that to kind of make that glaze all come together. Just whip it good, and once it's mixed, then it's very simple. You just want to kind of pour it right on top of that nice ham. Look how it'll go all into the score marks, and you can imagine what great flavor this is going to be once this ham is put back into about a 375-degree oven and allowed to cook for about 15 minutes or so. Now, I am very, very careful to make sure that I keep it covered because I don't want that sugar to scorch on the ham once it goes into the oven. And then let it sit when it comes out for a couple of minutes because that'll make it easier to carve rather than have that hot, steamy ham coming out right into your face as you're trying to carve. Take a look at the one that's already done here. Well, I tell you, wait till you get a shot of this. Oh, boy, look at this. This Kumquat Glazed Ham from Ardoyne Plantation. You can see how all the kumquats give it a really great pattern on top. And I've taken grapes and put it in green sugar and purple sugar. Just dip the grapes in a little whipped egg whites and dip it in colored sugar. And then I can garnish the top with some chopped mint. Isn't this one of the prettiest hams you've ever seen? This is just a regular cured ham right out of Ardoyne Plantation. But if you're going to get a country one, remember, you have to let it soak in water or, believe it or not, in tea. You can soak the old dried cured ham in tea for about 3 days, and that tea kind of neutralizes the salt on the outside of the cured ham. So try that. I think it'll be a nice twist. Okay, what other little dish am I going to do for you? Well, certainly a dish that would go well with the ham is a really nice whipped potato. I have a whipped potato recipe that really makes it easy, but by the same token, you want to remember that a lot of people can't make good mashed or whipped potatoes. So I wanted to share this with you. First of all, the different potatoes that's available when you're making mashed or whipped cloud potatoes, as I call these. In Louisiana, as everywhere else, we have the russet potatoes, which are the white potatoes, really, really nice for this dish. The little red potatoes, of course, this is the typical red that you see everywhere, and the little B&B, or the little new potatoes, butter potatoes. Of course, this is a Louisiana yam, and we even make whipped potatoes with the yam, so you'll see that sometimes on a table here in Bayou Country. And I've already taken some of the potatoes and peeled them, and of course, you want to get the eyes out of these potatoes, too. You see the little eyes right here. This is going to leave specks in the potato, so you don't want to leave those in before you boil them. And what I've done here is I've put a little pot of water boiling onto the stove, and I can kick the flame up here, but I want to get this potato down into the boiling water. I want to flavor this water with a little salt, and you can even put a couple little pats of butter down in here if you wanted to, but I'm going to go ahead and just put a nice little pinch of salt down into the water, and you want to bring the water to a rolling boil. Let this water boil, let the potatoes boil for about an hour, and the important thing in whipped potatoes, you have to drain them in a colander before you start to mash them, because otherwise you'll get all of that water down in the bottom of your bowl, and it'll just kind of make your potatoes all runny rather than fluffy. So let's take a look at that. I have some out of the water already, and I took this old masher. I want you to look at this. This is an old cypress masher that came out of the swamplands of Louisiana that would have been used to do just this. We'd have mashed the potatoes with it many, many years ago. However, today, there's a couple easier ways to do it. We can either do it with a nice fork, just kind of mash them in there like this, and it's acceptable to have lumps in whipped potatoes. Very important, because most people will say, what? What did he say? And that's true, it is, because that tells all of your guests around the table that those potatoes were made fresh and not out of a box. So, hey, it's okay to have a couple lumps in nice potatoes. Into this, of course, I'm going to put a little bit butter. How much butter? Well, normally 1.5 tablespoons per potato. It sounds like a lot, but if you want cloud potatoes, that's what it's going to take. 1.5 tablespoons of butter per potato. Then into that, I'm going to put a little bit cream, about 1 cup for 6 potatoes, and that cream is going to really make it rich. And the only flavoring other than salt and pepper is a touch of nutmeg. All white sauces made with milk should, in fact, have a little bit nutmeg in it. So salt, pepper, whip all of this together like that, and then either put it in a blender or put it, grab that little mixer out from under the counter, as I would do right here. I've got a little mixer here, and you can just kind of put it in there and whip it on around like that until you get a really, really nice look of the potatoes. You can see how they're fluffing up. Look at this, how nice they're coming together. And I think you have the general idea. You would want to continue to do this until you have a really, really nice look in these potatoes, and then you can smooth it around the edge of the bowl and garnish it with some nice chopped parsley or whatever right on the top, and you're going to have a wonderful batch of potatoes to put next to that ham with a touch of that red-eye gravy on the side of it. A really nice dish, the cloud potatoes of Ardoyne Plantation. Now, another dish that I found over there that I'm really excited about is a turtle soup recipe. In Louisiana, we have great turtle soup recipes, but this was one of my best, and I want to show you this terrine. Take a look at this really nice Chinese terrine. You can see all the great colors in it, and as I pull this up, look at that turtle soup. It's garnished with a little chopped eggs, and the lady of the house, Mrs. Shaffer, told me to always garnish with a little bit sherry in turtle soup. So that's exactly what I'm doing here. Wonderful turtle soup with the ham and the potatoes of Ardoyne Plantation. Okay, well, I told you I had a good friend of mine coming to visit, my good buddy Alvin Batiste, director of Jazz Institute. How you doing, boy? There he is.
How you doing?
Great to see you.
Right. Come on, Savannah.
Oh, come see, come sa. How are you?
Right.
Man,
well, first of all, before we get started, I thought I'd bring you a copy of my compact disc, the new one I told you about from CBS, because I know you didn't have a chance to go to the record store. So here it is, Alvin Batiste, Late.
Man, I tell you, Alvin Batiste, Late. What does late mean?
Better late than never.
I love your music. I've been a fan of your music for a long time. I can't wait to throw this into the CD. So, hey, thank you so much for bringing it. And I would have gone to buy it. You know,
well, I know you didn't have time, so that's why I brought it for you.
Remember we want to talk about music. We want to talk about the African-American influence in music from the plantations. But remember you and I were talking one day about homemade wine. We were talking about the big old crocks of wine that you would always find on the plantation.
Right, and my grandmother used to make some.
Everybody did, and I wanted to share that recipe with our friends out here. Let's make a little batch of blackberry wine and show them exactly how we made it. Now, what I want to do, I'm beginning here with a 1-gallon crock. Of course, these were normally about 10-gallon crocks, and we would put into that, about, in a gallon of water, we would always put a couple pounds of sugar. Now, you were telling me there's another formula for making wine, the water and the sugar. What was it?
Yeah, you take an egg, still in the shell, drop it in the water. If it floats, it means that there's a balanced harmony between all the ingredients and the sugar.
So no matter how much water you put, if an egg floats in it, you know that it's perfect for wine making. Right. I'm going to put blackberries in here, and again, you want to put about 4 pounds of fresh fruit, whether it's apples, berries, whatever, strawberries, for each gallon of water. So that'd be about 20 pounds for 5 gallons. And you would cover this, sugar, water, there's natural yeast on the berries. You'd cover it with a little cheesecloth that you would find at any store with a little string, and allow this to naturally ferment for about 6 weeks. And you know what you have? Look what I have in this bottle here. Some nice blackberry wine, homemade.
Very good.
I want you to get a little sip of that. And sit down right here and sip that blackberry wine, and let's chat a little bit about music. Now, I know that your first instrument was given to you. You played a clarinet.
Right.
And I know that your first instrument was given to you by your dad. Somebody said in a gym bag. Is that right?
That's right. That gym bag caused me a lot of concern because the guys who were in my class used to kid me about it. But if it wasn't for that gym bag, I probably wouldn't even be talking to you today.
Well, thank God for that gym bag. Now, your dad was a musician, wasn't he? He was on the plantations, but he was also a musician?
Well, he came from Reserve, Louisiana, and he played a little clarinet, a little violin. I didn't hear him play the clarinet until the day that he gave me mine. I didn't get a chance to hear him play violin, but my uncle told me about it.
Yeah, but you knew he did.
That's right. And I asked him why he left Reserve, and he said that he got away from. He wanted to get away from the plantation.
From the plantation.
Yeah.
In African-American music, you're an authority on it. I know you do a lot of writing on the African influence in music. The slaves obviously coming to North America and being brought into the Virginia territory back in the 1500s, they didn't come willingly. They didn't pack luggage. Was any instruments a part of their journey here, or did they bring any, or did they make them here? Well, what about instruments?
Well, I would have to assume that they didn't bring any with them. They probably didn't have a chance to pack, right? But I'm sure that they were able to make some because of the way that the music has evolved and because of some of the things that I discovered doing research in Africa. And they were basically instruments that would go in the string family, like the banjo, like what is called the earth drum, that has sort of a bass function and a bluesy sound.
Right.
Okay.
Talking about drums, you told me one day that the drums soon became very taboo on the plantations, that even though they started to make them quickly, they were outlawed by the English, right?
That's right. You know why?
Why?
Because they could talk on those drums. They could actually send messages. And that wasn't very good for the slave master, because then they could organize insurrections and on special agenda.
so they hurry up and got those drums out of the way.
Right.
What about the slave music? You see the old movies and you see the slaves in the cotton fields. At one point, there's music going on, they're singing. You see the slaves in the quarters at night around the fires, and there's a different type of music. Then, of course, there's the spiritual. Were each of these musics different, or was this something that was just one song sang different ways?
You would have to say that they were different because they were used in different functions. You made me think about Sidney Bechet, the great jazz musician who wrote a book called Treated General. And when you mentioned slave music, he brought out the point that that music, even though it was made by people in a slave condition, that it represented freedom. And it's a great idea to think like that. Like, for instance, when they were in the fields, they used music where the rhythm and the cadence of the music would enable them to do what they were doing more efficiently. In the church, they had call and response.
Is there a tremendous influence on American music today that was influenced by the slavery movement on the plantation?
Yeah, it's a continuum, just like in all other cultures. And the blues is the basic music of the music industry. Just about any kind of music that sells mega bucks, say especially in American civilization, is based on the blues. And then the church music, of course. And then you have the folk type music where people would sit around the fires and tell stories and make songs about the stories.
Now, I love the lyrics to your songs. I listened to them, and I was listening to a song the other day called Music Came, and it dawned on me that's Alvin Batiste, and that's what you feel about the music of the African influence. Tell us those lyrics.
Music came, music came, way down deep in the depths of sorrow, the music came. Slavery didn't make no difference. Slavery didn't make no difference, 'cause way down deep in the depths of sorrow, the music came. Far from the shores of my native land, never had a family hold my hand, but however, wherever I may be, the universe provides for me. Vibes from the cosmos set me free when the music came. Now I stake my claim to be free. 'Cause I know what it means to have true identity. The music came.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for coming, and thank all of you for dropping by as we continue to cook up more great Taste of Louisiana. That's fantastic.
Thank you. Enjoy being here.
Soup.
Funding for this program was provided in part by Bruce Foods Corporation, makers of Bruce's Yams and other distinctive Louisiana-style food products.
Chef John Folse's Plantation Celebrations, Recipes from Our Louisiana Mansions, is a full-color 335-page book containing food history, recipes, and over 150 photographs from these southern landmarks. For your copy, send a check or money order for $28.50 to Louisiana Public Broadcasting, 7860 Anselmo Lane, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 70810. Or use your credit card by calling toll-free 1-800-973-7246.